So I think I know that we have kept on wait for last 3 minutes. So I think without waiting further, I'm sure people will keep on joining in.
Sure.
But without waiting further, let's start the webinar, Rohit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a quick context to this webinar. This is all about electric vehicles, and we all know that the popularity that is gaining not only in India but in the entire Asia region as well as outside Asia. So this particular webinar is more about understanding the context of purchase, consideration sets, understanding the usage journey that Rohit will talk about. But before we do that, I just briefly want to tell you what we do as a company. So it's a very brief introduction. As you can see, the parent company is called
Just one slide, that's all we have. Huh?
Yes, it's not a sales pitch at all.
Nah.
So Neurosensum is a market research consulting where we do both neuro-based research as well as non-neuro-based research. People who want to understand system 1, we do neuro-based research for them. Those who just want to get only system 2 thinking, like the way we have been doing for years, that's called a non-neuro-based research. So that's what Neurosensum does. We have offices in Malaysia, in India, as well as in Indonesia. ServiceSensum is a software. It's a customer experience platform. So in case you don't want to go to an external research agency, you have a massive internal database, and you want to utilize that customer database to send service to the customer, get real-time feedback. That's what ServiceSensum does. So these are the two brands that you will keep on seeing, which falls under our parent company. And when it comes to automotive, in Southeast Asia, we have done massive amount of work. We are relatively a new entity in India, but in Southeast Asia, we are very, very well known. We have done work with companies like Honda, Piaggio, OLX, Hyundai, BMW, Daimler, Nissan. These are some of the familiar names that possibly you might are aware of. So that's a very quick introduction of what we do as a company. Particularly about me, I'll just give you a quick brief about who I am. So I've been based in Southeast Asia for over 20 years. I had more than 2 decades of experience working in Jakarta, in Southeast Asia as well as in Singapore. I'm also the founder of the company. So recently, I personally myself shifted my base to India to expand our India operations. So the idea of launching this particular company, Neurosensum, 5 years back, just it was a startup 5 years back, not anymore, because we have worked with so many brands in the region. The idea was to bring some technology elements to market research, be it a neuroscience element or be it a SaaS platform called ServiceSensum. And the idea was to bring something new and different, something unique, something possibly that can excite clients, something that can provide the value to clients. So that's one of the reasons we launched the company, and we do see India as a big progressive market. And that's where Rohit came on board with us as a managing director. Rohit, I know that you know a lot of familiar faces here, so just a quick introduction.
I've been lucky enough to know a fair bit of the members who joined over here, of the participants here. But yes, very quickly, almost 2 years of decades in consumer insights, a fair bit of that in the auto space, and been very lucky to be associated with quite a few OEMs as a partner, as a consultant. Yeah. Our intent today really, sorry.
Yeah, Rohit, I was about to say the same thing. So over to Rohit in terms of presenting the entire study that we have done in India. Rohit, go ahead.
But even before that, even before we go into the details, very quick intent today. We are here really with some data, with some implications, hopefully a bit of a story over here, but given the very intelligence audience, with the industry associated audience, do help us try and spot implications. That is something which will build in more discussions. We may not have all answers today, and really such a study like this aimed at finding out certain interesting things. It's not prescriptive in nature. We are not solving a problem over here. So definitely it's nothing attributed to a brand. Just help make this a very discussion oriented one.
Sure. And again, like with every webinar that we do, the intent is not to make it a monologue. We do want you to ask questions. As you can see on the bottom of your screen, this is the Q&A button. you can press that and you can write your question. So while Rohit is presenting, in case you have any questions, I will interrupt Rohit in between. Sorry, Rohit, for that. But the idea is to keep on answering questions that people in the audience has got. In case you want to speak a question, you don't want to type it, just raise your hand. I will give you the access to speak, which means I will be able to unmute any of you at any point of time. In case you want to ask a question, you don't want to write that question.
Sure.
Just raise your hand, I'll give you the access to speak and you can speak your question.
I'm good. Thank you. Okay, without much ado, the reason why we thought this is a good idea to connect, this is a good idea to chat around. And really this audience knows this much better than I do. This is a category which is taken on, which has decided to go much northwards, poised for very sharp growth. If you see the monthly sales of high-speed EV, which is something which is available in the public domain, it's something which is not a blip. It's something which has been consistently showing some numbers, some very strong numbers. To a discussion a few months back when a huge news item was, it is 1% of the overall industry, two-wheeler industry sales. So something we know it's more than double, tripled since that time. And much like the auto industry, it also has started showing a seasonality. It's following that particular path. Fair enough to say that there will be many more EV users in the market in a few weeks, months, years. And thus, when we see the market around, it's abuzz with very positive news, be it from the industry, be it from the regulator, the government. There's a lot of news, and that news is essentially around saying how will the growth go? Will it grow 10 times from now, 50 times from now? Will it start dominating the landscape? And also about changes. But another very important point, and that's where consumer insights people come in, is about that what is the impact it will have on decision making. We know that for big purchase category, essentially for automotive, word of mouth is very big. It's something where the question is not just about which brand will I buy. It's also about what functionalities to go for, what is getting greater traction in the market. And that's why rather than a plain vanilla TG, or asking them, do you intend to buy with the half knowledge which you have, with the infrastructure which is coming up, we've gone actually to recent buyers, trying to find out how do they in hindsight view the category, how do they talk about their decisions, and what is the impact going on they will have on the largest of people who want to buy a two-wheeler. 600 quantitative interviews, a few cognitive journey discussions just to make our understanding richer, to ask better questions is what we have. Fairly recent fieldwork just about conducted has ended earlier this month. And we've gone only to metros and mini metros. By no means is this a picture of the entire country, but definitely of the big markets right now. And I think the first things as they come up, what we've looked at is when you are making a particular decision, what about the contact points, about the media points, where all did you make your search? So very, very simple cross section of people who are saying, yes, I considered a particular medium. This is really the place. This axis, the x-axis talks about incidence of approaching using that medium, and the y-axis talks about the importance of it. A confluence of the two really tells me what are the big effect contacts. Clearly, we see a lot of social media, YouTube, internet search, essentially everything digital is here. But what is also here, and to the biggest one, is the word of mouth. So just about proof of the reason why we went into this, even in this category, my automotive colleagues over here would know how it works in the category, just to say EV is not too different. The other salient one, along with digital mediums, is also the dealership visit. There's more around that as we go forward. But there's a quick poll here. In your opinion, what are the high impact touch points for EV category? Are these really similar to ICE vehicles when we say high impact, these ones? So very quick audience poll over here. If you could help us with that, finding out what does actual industry think about it, that would be very helpful.
I think, and in the meantime, if any of you have got any question, please, either raise your hand or write that in the Q&A, so that we can make it far more interactive. Yeah, so we'll give possibly another 10 seconds for the poll.
Sure. Sure. Moving on.
Yeah, so let me end the poll and show the results on the screen, Rohit.
Okay.
So here are the results.
Yeah, I would really go with the audience over here. Okay, that's just a personal view, but the kind of digital one which we are talking about, also if we start including the markets which are heavy on it, it would definitely be only somewhat similar, not very similar. Yeah, very right. Thank you. Thanks.
Rohit, I've got a very interesting question. Okay, can I just interrupt you and ask that question?
No,
right
please, there's no interruption. Please go on.
So, so this is a question which talks about that how the digital quotient of EV category has impacted consumer search journey.
I think how it has impacted search journey. Of course, we know for the fact, and there's even evidence from the survey we had conducted. This is essentially a digital TG. When I look at the social media trends, when I look at the e-commerce trends, when I even look at something as basic as the cost of a smartphone, it's something very high. A 20K plus smartphone is the median price which we are getting. So definitely the digital quotient is very, very high for this TG. Yeah.
Okay. Other question which is here, are you going to discuss about CV industry?
No, we are not. No, we are not. That's good food for thought as we go ahead. Because this is something which we want to make a series and not a one-off. So noted well. Yeah.
All right. What is interesting, Rohit, possibly I also want to, I understood that people might say similar, somewhat similar, but there are 18% people who are saying very different. And hopefully I want to ask, or if they can raise up their hand, if they have a point of view why it is very different. I want to unmute those 7 people, one of those 7 people understand in case they raise up the hand. And in case they don't, then anyways, we can move on. I just thought of getting a perspective that how it can be different from ICE vehicles. Do you have a point of view if it can be different, in what ways it can be different?
See, some of the ways, for example, we know at least when it comes to closing the last mile. And I'll go back to the chart, just 1 second. Yeah. See, things like automotive website. Yeah, that's where we know that in the ICE vehicles, this is something which takes on humongous proportions, definitely much bigger than what we see over here. Newspapers can be very important when it comes to when it comes to ICE vehicle, a conventional vehicle sort of a space. So I think that really might be a point which is being reflected over here. Yeah.
Sure. All right, I think let's move on to the next section now.
Let's go on. Again, talking about those touch points, putting them in perspective, dealership visit. So I think one thing is very clear: the physical element is not ending anytime soon. There's more evidence as to what they really want from the dealership as we go ahead. The importance of being active, and showing compelling content on social media is something which cannot be overemphasized. Manufacturer website really lies over here. What that means is, if that has to make an impact, if that has to be counted for something, you need an inorganic visitor. You need a visitor who has been guided, if not pushed over there. Automotive website, is that about absence of relevant content that people are not going over there right now? We really don't know. Yeah, of course, there's something as sharp as a zig wheels has to come up over here. Print, the only suggestion is very localized price and closure information is all that should be used. That too, if there's appetite for that. And now there's this interesting data point on what was the type of vehicle which you had considered. So sorry, forgive this typo, considered for purchase is what it should be. 92% people say that they only considered a EV. At least to me, this was a big eye opener. What that means is when I stepped out, by then my mind was very, very clear. Another associated data point, and that's something which talks about the information sources. 25% people just visited one showroom. All the research, all the shopping around had been done before I even stepped out. So that means something for the digital resources that make the information as much democratic as possible, and be present when the person is searching, because he'll do a lot of that. The second one is when someone is actually going to a dealership, he's already a pre-sold person. Make sure we have in situational demos, evidence-backed answers, because he won't go any further. And the time spent on him, he's not a cold lead, he's not a shopper. Very, very different from what we've seen in the regular non-EV two-wheeler category. And again, begets the question, why a electric vehicle? So you 92% people, why only an electric vehicle? So we've used some bit of a color coding over here. You'll see a fair amount of blues, a fair amount of greens, which is about being different. And quite a few oranges as well, which is about the product. What it really tells us is electric vehicles, they are striking a chord, not just at the rational money saving one, but also at the emotive layer. People are talking about it being better looking. People are talking about it is more smooth. So those are some very tangible benefits as well. The next one, there's a very high focus on product aspects. What that means is in the evaluation, demo is of very high importance. If it is something where I can really, let's say, push that demo sooner, a person, for example, is thinking, I'll wait till the weekend and then go to the dealership. Can the vehicle come at his home? Reduction in day-to-day expenses is a big one, and that's bigger than the acquisition price when I look at the sheer gravitas of the two. And mind it, these are top reasons. We had shown him about 20-25 reasons. He could have chosen all of them, but that's just a wish list effect. We wanted to get the sharp ones, so it was limited to a 5. Some significant differences observed between high-speed users. There, the focus is disproportionately high on smooth to drive, on advanced technology. Over here, yeah. Low-speed users, I think that's a very logical one, over-indexed on reduction in expenses. And factors which get disproportionate value when I am disproportionate gravitas when I go to the evaluation process. Once again, it was top 5 selected by a person. So we see price, maintenance really at the top of it. So money rules, and by a fair margin. At the same time, when you look at these light blues, it tells me that only being electric is not enough. That time has probably passed. Advanced technology, comfort, advanced features, those are the things which are being talked about. At the same time, the regularly touted metrics like charging time, like range, like ease of handling charging setup is something he is not thinking of when he is actively evaluating, because those are decisions, those are pre-alignments which have already taken place. And environment friendly really just remains a good feel, back of the mind emotion kind of a thing. It's not to say he doesn't feel that, but of course there are bigger, rational, more on my pocket kind of things which take precedence, as they would in any big scenario. Revisiting the key touch points, we've seen some of them are big. Now coming more on that, we'd asked people, where would you like a demo? Right now, actually, about 7% got it at home. 28% would desire it at home. That's also the point we were talking about. How can I really get him up the funnel? Other interesting one, are you happy to take a delivery at your home? 38% say a resounding yes over here. And that's a sharp contrast from how it is right now. But the one where it works the other way around, where would you like to do the booking? More people say at the place. Now, if I go into the consumer psyche over here, that's really the time when I'm making the payment. That's the time when the money is changing hand. Getting used to before this event unknown kind of digital journey is something which could be a problem. And the other big one is we know he wants to be reassured when he's doing that. That's like the last bit of thing which will help him take the plunge. Moving from purchase context to now in usage, some of the things which we're talking about are charging modes. How does the entire equation happen over here? And what can we do to really build upon the digital enablement, which we've seen at the start of this presentation.
Yeah, but I think before we go there, Rohit, if you can go back to the previous slide, I've got three very interesting questions.
Please.
I think let's just take a couple of those questions. As demo and delivery is preferred at home, do you think it will be a standard for the future for the category?
See, whether it will be a standard or not is something I think the other people on this can better say. But I mean, just if I have to sort of opine on it, there's a demand, and secondly, when I take the demo to the person, I would say a fair bit of cost I would be saving in real estate. So I would need a smaller place if I'm only doing a booking over there. So I would say there's definitely a opportunity. Yeah.
All right.
And again, as I said, this is about the more digital savvy person to further talk about it. It's only the bigger towns that we are talking of over here. It goes to the smaller towns, it could be a very different landscape. But yes, I would say I put a lot of reliance on these findings. These points, they sort of look very cogent here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it will never be this or that. It will always be a mix of both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I've got another very interesting question, Rohit. As the consumer decision is made before visiting the showroom, what do you think are the best ways of building a brand salience?
Beyond those sources, I mean, the one which we are talking about, which means I'm sure a lot of that content is already there on YouTube, and if there is no content, this decision would not have happened. So this is not just a reflection of consumer behavior, it's also a reflection of what is available. If it wasn't available, the decision wouldn't have been taken over there. So
yep. All right. There's a question about the sampling. When you sample the owners of electric vehicles, did you split the scooter versus motorcycle owner?
No, because for the sheer fact that the motorcycle one, the brands are very few. On those particular brands, they find space in the sample, but I cannot look at within the 400 high-speed owners that we have. I cannot take out those sample and sort of look at it differently. It's a small number for that sort of analysis. But yes, they are present over there, and it's a fair coverage.
Got it. So I've got a couple of more questions, but I think I will hold on to those questions. Let's move to the next section.
Sure.
Because I think next section is really, really very, very interesting. That has some of the new information for me also per se.
Sure. So we've seen everyone is talking a lot about cost of running, essentially the charging cost in this particular one, and of course maintenance. But when I talk about how much money do you spend on electricity for full charge, 70% people, and these are owners, they don't have an idea of that. So which means when they say no, they aren't even hazarding a guess over there. The people who actually say that, it comes out to an average of about 39 rupees Yeah, a fair share between 26 and 40 rupees. So that's something. So what that really means is, if I have to look at implications, it is that this is something which can be communicated not just at the time of purchase, but even later, finding out this is what we promised. Is it happening such? It can be something which really spurs word of mouth, which really is the starting point for us here. Okay, to a poll now. This is really finding out whether what we have in the surveys is how right or wrong it is. Yeah, because we know such things don't work extremely well on a stated one. Those who have this said.
Okay, so I'm launching the poll. Let's look at what people feel. So Rohit, while the answers are coming in, can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
May I know, I think it comes back to the sampling again. I think there's some questions about the sampling. So when we send this report to people, it might be a good idea to send the sampling framework.
Sure.
May I know what has been the profile of respondents? Are they FTB, RB, and so on and so forth?
Okay. First time buyers, yes, we have that. If you could just note Rajiv, who's asked this question, I'll be happy to share a response to them. I don't have numbers with me, but it's a very fair share of first time buyers. It's, I think, about, if I'm not wrong, between 60 to 70% first time buyers, which we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So other question is about, did we have this information? What is the general perception or acceptance of gap between booking and delivery? No, we don't have an answer.
That's something. No, we don't have.
Okay.
I'll move on.
Yeah, so I think let me just publish the result of the poll.
Please.
Here's a distribution, Rohit, for everybody to see.
Okay. As scattered as our responses.
Yeah, but I think when I look at this data, it looks slightly lower to what we have estimated in our research, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So the average here somehow it comes to.
It would be closer to 30 rupees than 40 rupees. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's around 32, 33 is what the average is.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's start sharing the results and we'll move to the next section. I'll pick up some more questions, Rohit, and keep disturbing you in between.
No, I'm good. Just 1 second. Yeah. Next really is, what is your most preferred medium? So rather than go completely unaided for this, we had presented certain scenarios over here. We said that home charging will cost you about 40 rupees. Public fast charger will cost you about 120 to 150 rupees for the full charge, and public slow charger will cost you about 70 to 80 rupees. So not surprising really, in absence of anything else, what the person is going for right now. And also that can form a very convenient sort of a routine as well. I go home, I charge in the night. So a fair share of people come over here. Another interesting part is, between the 16% and 14%, there's really no difference. So despite the fact that the public fast charger will be a much quicker activity, a similar number of people have gone for the slow charger, and the only way to attribute it logically is the difference in price. Once again, goes back to the part that operating costs is something significant over here. Yeah, I look at the difference between these two. Metros, they are much higher on this particular one as compared to mini metros. But interestingly, a huge majority is likely to use public charging if available in their catchment. So the graph on the left is really not reflective of will public chargers get a lot of traction or not. And after the point of time, it's also about people seeing that this is something which makes a difference. I can really travel a lot more on this. I need not be as planned and meticulous with my schedule. Who likes to be that? There's something which is available as a safety net for me. Once again, the likelihood of using public chargers is much higher amongst high-speed EV users. And now what we're trying to see is what is the average usage in a day? How much do people normally run? High-speed owners, about 34 kilometers is coming as the average. Low speed, 27 kilometers. Not too much of a difference over there. But the bigger difference is coming when I simulate a high travel day. What is your use on a high travel day? This sheer range between the average usage and the high travel day over here is much higher than it is in a low speed environment. So very predictable usage is something which is being met over here. And that explains that this will be done using at-home sources, and that's why the lower affinity for public chargers.
So Rohit, there's a question regarding the usage. So according to you, whether you have the information regarding this, is the usage of EV, how is it in comparison to ICE? Do you think EV consumers are using it more to draw the economies of scale?
No, I believe for the ICE user, it's closer to the high speed one. It's very close to it. 1 or 2 kilometers up and down. And the last I saw similar information. Okay. So probably even today, someone who's really taking it out for the spin, etc., or who has a very unpredictable usage, would rather probably shy a bit till he's more assured about this. Yeah, but so I think this usage, the high speed usage, is closer to the conventional.
All right. Sure, carry on. I think I've got loads of questions to ask you, but yeah, go ahead.
On the modalities of home charging now, what would people really prefer? Very quick background, 2 kinds of ways. I put the entire scooter on charge, which is a default mode. The second one, added functionality could be taking the battery out and plugging it in my home, very similar to how I would plug a mobile phone. What's the preferred option? Scooter on charge first is the preferred option for high-speed users. For low-speed users, it is more about battery removal. And how I would read this data is because this is a more bulky battery, and it would be slightly limiting to move it out and take it in over there. But again, what that means is if I cannot remove the battery, lug the heavy battery with me, there could be other convenient options. The other important part is a fair incidence of people over here. They know how to remove the battery. They know how to remove the battery. It's not something which is new. And we've only looked at people who had access to these functionalities when we asked this question. In that aspect, battery swapping, while it may not have too much of salience today, people do not know much about it. But a good 70% people would intend to use this service if they are available. A much resounding reaction as compared to the high-speed charger or public chargers, really. So really one myth which seems to be breaking over here, Indians don't like DIY. I'm sure IKEA might have a different answer to that. But at least in this very tip of the sword kind of TG, this is something they are not shying away from. Implications for OEMs, how the batteries, the charging ways could really be on the same platform, and it's an opportunity for aggregators, definitely. And when I look at that small cross section of people, 30% who say no, not likely to use. The big point over there, it could be the sort of articulation could be one or the other. Swapping stations are not enough, long waiting time, quality of battery, but it all boils down to infra. So one would believe this is a number, this 30% is a number, would really could change. Yeah. How likely are you, and that's for the audience, to share data for connected vehicle services? I mean, all of you would not be using a two-wheeler. There would be quite a few passenger car. But if you had something for where your services could be made better by sharing your data, would you do that?
Yeah, Rohit, I've just launched the poll, so results are coming in.
Okay.
So while the results are coming in, I've got one very interesting question to ask you. In fact, two of them. Do you think people are concerned about the safety of charging the battery? For example, sometimes overcharging the battery can be a concern to the vehicle, or it can be a concern to the human.
I mean, it goes on auto cut. So of course, I mean, at the start of the journey, when I haven't found out enough, it could be something. But for people who are actually using it, they would know it's something which is built in. There's a auto cut which happens up there. So
yeah. Other question is that a lot of people are living in the high rises. Not everybody stays in homes.
Yeah.
So do you think that the electric vehicles, especially because they require charging, can that be a barrier for them?
Rajiv, you're breaking. Come again.
A lot of people are living in the high rises.
Yes, yes.
So a home charger may be a barrier for them. Do you think that possibly might slow down the growth of the category?
Of course. So I believe that once public facilities, be it of charging, be it of swapping, that comes on, it's something which will definitely change. Yeah, that's my view. But yeah.
Sure. Let me end the poll and show the results.
Yes, yeah, please.
I'm very
We'll have
curious
to
to
go on
look
a
at
slightly
them.
faster pace here.
Yeah.
Oh, 37% people saying they are very likely. And that's something which is in sharp contrast to what the user feels. But yeah, okay. I think with the samples being in there, okay. So first of all, we took their word view on telematics. Given certain things, what are certain services which could be available? What's really useful for you? Updates on current state and maintenance needs of my vehicle is big. Parking spots, and definitely as we are talking of bigger cities, is something very pertinent. Suggestion on better maintained roads, that's something which comes out much more strongly from the lower speed ones. Of course, given the slightly more fragile structure, yeah, it's something which is pertinent. But the big point over here, 27% people say that they would be interested in sharing data to get the said services. Yeah. So even in a very dispersed TG, we are also talking about, as someone got on a fair number of first-time buyers. This is something which would be which would be a very big question over here. Yeah. How do we really induce them? What not inducement is not the right word. How do we really convince them to share that data? Telling them that this is the benefit which you are getting, and this is the kind of XYZ encryption which goes onto your data. That's something very important. On the journey forward, there's been news recently, not so far back in time, on safety issues happening in two-wheelers. So what does this very informed TG, they are the users, what do they say about this? 1/3 of people say it's a problem for most products. And really, it's about 45% people say this is completely balderdash or I don't even care about it. So, but again, this 33 is a significant number. What that means is, right at the beginning, right at the point of purchase, when we know that the user is seeking reassurance, this is a very big point over there. And on future view, I think, yeah, 56% people say that, yes, they are very sure they would want to buy a two-wheeler again. And once I have seen the EV experience, I'm not likely to go back to petrol run vehicles. So I would say that's something which is huge. And there was a question about motorcycles earlier. I think a very interesting one on that. 19% people, and that's in a scenario when options are not too many, they talk about having an electric motorcycle. What that means is if I really even go in the sheer differences between the way I said or the functionality of it, it's time when this market is maturing from the basic of low speed, high speed with certain functionalities, not functionalities, to now emotive needs as well along with functional needs. So as a more detailed segmentation is something which manufacturers could be looking at very shortly. When you do, we are here. So yeah, also about portfolio, because I would always have a basic product, I'll have a more advanced product, and I'll probably have a supernova. How do I sort of get that architecture right within my repertoire is something which would be something very interesting to look at. Key learnings. Rajiv, do we have time for that, or do I?
Yeah, we do have time.
How much?
We have another 15 minutes, Rohit.
Oh, super. Great.
Yeah, so you have time, so you can go at your own pace.
Great, thank you so much. That's reassuring. So a heavy role of digital connect, but at the same time, the physical part is as important. And when I am looking at reassurance on maintenance and technology, do talk about safety, even if the person doesn't articulate it. Ride comfort is something which has come up big. So walk-in, a very hot prospect. His experience has to be managed right from the part when he comes in for the first look or the demo to when he's closing it, and even further ahead. If I'm really looking at it to drive repeat purchase and word of mouth, we need to manage his experience. The big metric here is cost per kilometer. That's something which we've seen towers above the acquisition price. So in that light, a lifetime savings chart is something which could be a very good idea. If I'm a high spec player, if I believe that these are things which I provide well, it's a very good idea. Battery swapping model seems to be a big hit. And the rational evidence I have for that is that preference for removable battery pack is high even as we speak. Telematics, this is something which really needs to find a protagonist. Yeah, when we there was a question on how many people actually even know about a manufacturer app. That number is very low, and along with that, data sharing looks like a big barrier. So one should be looking at possible ways to allay that. Yeah, online reviews, very important. Is there scope of using testimonials over here? The larger, even if I go outside of a testimonial, which may sound only like a communication cue, the larger word of mouth aspect has to be very carefully managed. And we know this is a TG, which is much ahead of the curve in terms of being time poor. They are more time poor. They are digital natives. So what can I really do to be always in touch with them? And that's where we couldn't resist putting up some parts which we do very well on how to manage a large consumer listening program. Really be with him at all times. Don't reach him out at a point of time when he's probably forgotten about his experiences or he's far too busy. There are milestones with which our software can actually be with the person on an omni-channel based mode, which is activated through SMS, most actively WhatsApp. Something which also gives him the opportunity to voice his concerns, which can be solved real time. You do not need to wait for the survey to end, to someone making the charts, to looking at what do I do. By that time, a dissatisfied customer has probably made a reason to be a detractor. So how do we manage that real time? Because as I said, this is something which is integrated with your own processes. There's something which is not invasive in the part. When I say non-invasive, it doesn't want you sharing the proprietary details of your customers. It also doesn't hit him at a time when he's busy on other things. And then there are advanced dashboards for in-depth analysis, something which is a live in situation running thing. Yeah.
So it's interesting, Rohit, that you mentioned it, because if you look at any of the market research journals or any other areas around the world, a real-time customer feedback in the moment is taking shape. I think possibly slowly things, I'll not say that they will become outdated, but a record-based answer is not as accurate.
Sure.
If we can get a reply from a customer in the moment, real time, and more importantly, if you can take that action real time.
Yeah, and there are things which I would remember over the period of time. And but some of the very transactional thing, transaction being the keyword over here, is something which does fit away with time. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, sure. I'm sure that, as we go on, I think a lot of, not only automotive, but a lot of companies will take programs like this or softwares like this to understand real time what are their customers are saying. It's not about just getting a feedback, but it's also reaching out to those customers and trying to convert those negative feedback into a positive experience.
Yeah, and now that you say automotive, I think the use case for them is stronger because it is segregated already into. We are not making those journeys. We are not creating them now. They've been like this for decades.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I've got a lot of other questions, Rohit. Yeah. I think we can go to the next poll, and then after that, I can.
Please, you can ask the questions as they are.
So I think the next question is for us more to understand. Would you be interested in knowing our services, which is either a consulting service or our service and some customer feedback platform that Rohit talked about? I'll just do a quick launch of the poll. I appreciate if you can give a feedback on that. And in the meantime, we'll add some more questions. And we'll ask some more questions to Rohit. So Rohit, while the feedback is coming, what are your views on hybrid/MC?
Hybrid/MC. Hybrid, I understand. When would you say MC? Could the person be unmuted, Rajiv, so that I can?
Sorry,
motorcycles is what we are speaking of.
Might be. I think let's talk about hybrid scooter because it's an anonymous attendee, so I cannot unmute them. Okay. But can you give your views on the hybrid scooters?
Hybrid scooters. I mean, that's really for someone who's. How I would think really it's about. The technology part is tricky. If I mean that really tests my product knowledge, yes. but within that framework, getting the electric as also the fuel part, of course. And of course, I mean that's a parallel I can take is that of commercial vehicles, let's say, or cars. It's really that's spurred on something which is at least begun the journey for many who would really want a safety net. So I think that's where I would stop.
Okay. So there are two questions regarding battery disposal or battery disposal or replacement.
Yeah.
Of course, we do understand that EV has a cost advantage. But in your research, have you seen people expressing concern that after some time they have to replace the battery? Okay. And that is additional cost. So do people calculate like that?
See, the cost of battery replacement, especially when we did the cognitive journeys, that's something which came up very well, and that's something which people have been aware more after they actually took up something. It wasn't a great discussion point then. And on the other part, did people have to face something such? See, we need to bear in mind, we spoke to people who are very recent buyers. A maximum of 12 months is what we've got. So no such where people had to, even within a year, replace that battery. So.
Okay, now I think there's another question, Rohit. What is the category interplay EV and IC 2W? Person is trying to find any impact on the demand of IC2W because of EV.
Is the question about what is the cost consideration? Because we just saw data point.
So whether EV will have an impact on the demand on IC.
See, theoretically, of course, anyone if he had to buy two wheels, yeah, because once again, within these people, one interesting part is that the car ownership is not like very high levels. So it would definitely be competing with two-wheelers. But I think if one is talking about a country like India, where population is still growing, so and we know we still, if not the youngest, have a very young population, a lot of people who are entering the workforce, and the biggest trigger is when people enter workforce. So I would say in terms of actual numbers, this is not something which can be a threat to anything, to IC vehicles any longer, anytime soon. And the second part is, yes, between a person who's made up a mind to buy EV, he doesn't shop around. He doesn't look at conventional petrol run two-wheelers.
All right. So do you see the digital payments and website penetration going up in the future while a person is booking a vehicle? Because nowadays a lot of OEMs are focusing on, click to buy models.
Yeah. I think while that would be definitely taking on, but it might not be that milestone, might not be longer called booking. The booking could happen, but an experience center sort of a thing. Come and view with us, come and discuss it with us over coffee, sort of a thing. That is something which manufacturers would find advantage in, because it takes away that last iota of doubt. And we know when it comes to doubt, it might just fritter away to another player. It might just postpone the journey, anything like that. So, but yes, specifically on digital payments, etc., that's something which is definitely, I might just be sitting at the dealership and making a digital payment. I think more than the payment mode, it is that connect which is important over there.
Yeah. And okay, so I'm going to pick up the last question now, right? There's some more questions. Given that for the time, we can go back to the people individually and answer that.
Anji.
Is there a scope of one stop or one shot charging?
I'm sorry.
Do you think there is a scope of one shot charging, one stop charging, so that it helps in lowering the population at the public charging
Rajiv,
point?
not at all able to hear you. So sorry, you'll have to come again.
Mind, I think if you can see the Q&A, can you see that? There's a question out there.
Just 1 second. Q&A. I'll go to the bottom.
Yeah. So is the scope of one shot charging? Can you see that?
I'm so sorry. In the Q&A.
There's a question asked by Kuldeep Gupta.
Just 1 second. Is there a scope of one shot charging?
Yeah.
Lower helps in lowering the what would one shot charging be? Kuldeep, would that mean that a smaller, a quicker time, or are you referring to a swapping over there?
I think my thought is possibly a swapping over there.
Yeah, definitely scope for that, but the consumer has been very clear over there. He doesn't know, he hasn't heard too much about it. Only 1/4 people have, but overwhelming majority feels that there is big scope of that. If that's the question, yeah.
All right, Rohit. So I think we've got a couple of more questions. Do you have energy to take one more?
Please go on.
Okay.
I'm not exactly breaking wigs here. So.
Do we have any insights on telematic usage frequency? Do they use it on every ride, or do they use it infrequently?
Very, very infrequently.
Okay.
Very infrequently.
All right. So, Rohit, I think that's it. If you have anything more to talk about, more to share, please go on. Otherwise, I think I'm done at my end asking you questions.
I think for me, a very important part is still left, which is really thanking everyone for their time. And yeah, I think we've overshot the time. And thanks for staying with us.
Yeah. So in fact, we have been exactly on dot, Rohit. So it's 3:29 right now. We started at 2:30.
Very good. Yeah.
Sure.
You'll see my coordinates here on the screen. Any further questions on that? Anything which you think we can answer better? Please do get back. Yeah, on here on LinkedIn. Be happy to drop a line. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So thanks everyone. Yeah, I think it has been a very interesting findings on EV, and thanks to all of you who have attended the webinar. We'll get back to you with the reports. So of course, it will come to you either through your LinkedIn account or through the email. So yeah, we look forward to having you on more webinars in the future.
Looking forward.
Stay safe. Take care. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you so much.